excited to have you here, man. Excited to dive into your story, who you are and what you're about. Again, welcome.
I appreciate it, man. I'm fired up to be on here. It's good to chop it up here in Nashville too.
Yeah. I mean, the in-person thing it works well. You know, I love the in-person because you get to feel the energy of the person.
Yeah.
I didn't know how I was going to like this podcasting thing until I started really diving into stories of asking guys about themselves and how they grew up.
Yeah.
And especially guys that I know that I was in the same locker room with.
Yeah.
And you get deeper into these stories about guys that, you realize like, man, there's a lot of opportunities that I miss to get to know guys at a deeper level when I was playing that I'm thankful now that I get to do that. So
how have you liked being a host? How's that been for you?
It was a little scary at first, but a little nerve wracking, but I'm starting to really kind of get into it and like it. And, just trying to find those places where, I can share my pieces of my story, relate to, to my guests and things like that. And so it's definitely been it's been a growth outside of my comfort zone, I would say. And, but I'm definitely enjoying it.
Well, dude, I mean, you got a sick setup here. I mean, you got the helmets in the background, got some whiskey here, represent Nashville in here. This is legit setup in here. The viewers can't see the whole thing. It's legit. Well,
I mean, they say if you want to, do it, you got to be in a place where you're comfortable and I'm comfortable around bourbon, football helmets. So yeah. So anyway, man, so you grew up, you're a Wisconsin guy through and through.
Yeah.
Through and through. You went to the University of Wisconsin, but before we even get into all of that, tell me about your upbringing. How was it growing up in Wisconsin? Because I associate that with being very, 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 very cold, which I'm sure most people do. So give me a little bit about it.
Well, you're right. It is cold up there. And before we really even hopped on camera, you were sharing a bit about your farming background. And I grew up in the same situation, grew up on a farm. Grew up in a cranberry marsh that's been in our family for 100 years. So I grew up... Cranberries, yeah. And a little fun fact for the viewers, over 50% of the world's cranberry production comes from Wisconsin.
Really?
So Wisconsin is big on cranberries. So anytime viewers might be drinking a dark juice, it could be coming from our farm. And basically what it is, they harvest them during the fall. You fill up this, it's like the size of a football field, filled up with water. We have this beer that comes on and knocks the vine, and the berries are buoyant, so they float to the top.
Yeah.
Cry them all up. Have a little harvesting. It drops in, sucks up the berries, cleans it off, dumps it on the trucks.
What's pits?
What's that?
The pits. It pulls the pits out too.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. We just the cranberries are coming out whole. So we're cleaning them off. We dump them on the truck, and then we send them to the Ocean Spray processing plants.
Kind of like apples.
Exactly. Right. Yep. Exactly. Shake them all up, gather them all up, and then that's your harvest. And then from there, and same thing at an apple orchard. They'll send it off to a processing plant where it's squeezed and condensed into the juice. And it's the same thing with cranberries. So that was my upbringing, and farming isn't a sexy thing. No. It's hard work. And I would say I'm extremely thankful for my roots. A lot of my hard work, a lot of the characteristics of who I am as a man today started from that. And legacy is also very important to me too. And I was able to see not just my parents, not even just my grandparents, but I saw my great grandfather be able to work.
Wow.
And when you're seeing an 80-year-old man out there still working like that humbles you, because who are you then to say I ain't working?
How important is that to see it? Because when I'm thinking of, when you said that, I'm thinking about I have my farm and I'm trying to parent my kids different, and I'm hoping that them seeing it,
that's right,
give at least give some type of I hope that work ethic is going to be there. How important was it for you to see your great grandfather out there working, that you were able to hold on to that?
Everything. It's one thing to talk about the work, but it's another to see the work.
Yeah.
We learn through, I'm a visual learner.
Mm-hmm.
I think most of us athletes are. And you seeing someone do the work, right? Not just talk about the work, but you seeing him do the work that day. It's not talking the talk, it's walking the walk.
Right.
And I think that has huge impact. And every single day I want to be able to have my kids come in the truck with me and see real estate projects that I'm doing now. I want them to see the work, right? Because I talk a lot, but I want my kids to see.
Right.
Because I think that's where the greatest growth comes.
Absolutely. So you grew up watching your great grandfather, your father, and this work ethic piece is becoming a theme for you.
Yeah.
How did you have any other siblings or other competition cousins that was around that now I'm going to outwork you?
My family background, the Cranberries actually came from my mom's side of the family, all entrepreneurs, farmers. My dad side of the family was all football. So my dad was a football player. My grandfather was a head football coach, is actually in the National High School Hall of Fame for head coaches. And, I had uncles who played and then my brother played Division I football with me at Wisconsin. So was the competition there? Absolutely. Even how I worked on the marsh, my dad, he would push me to, be the hardest worker out there. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I remember being 7, 8 years old out there pulling roots, doing physical labor, being, the first one and last one out. And then also too, as I got older, my dad entrusting my brother and I with running heavy machinery at a young age, like that's responsibility.
Absolutely.
And I think when you're handed at something like, hey, I could hurt myself or I could hurt others, that's a lot of responsibility. But I also think that an immense amount of growth came from that. So
did you think that way when you were that young, or were you just excited? Because I'm thinking when they told me I can get on a tractor and drive it, I'm like, 4 wheels, I'm gonna drive it. Yeah. Were you thinking about the responsibility of hurting yourself or hurting somebody else?
I would just, hey, listen, I just don't want to hurt myself or others. That's all I was thinking. And I also thought it was pretty damn cool to be able to, drive a dump truck or work a forklift or work an excavator or bulldozer. Those were really cool things. But yeah, I mean, I didn't want to ask up, hurt myself or others, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm like, I don't want to mess this up because I want to do this again tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Everybody else is walking around and I'm, doing this kind of, and I can actually drive. Oh yeah, I'm gonna stick to this, doing this
exactly.
Right.
Yep, exactly.
That's awesome. As you started to really, get this work ethic instilled in you, were you thinking about football, or were you thinking, how was that something pulling you one way or another?
Yeah, that's a really good question. My dad did a phenomenal job of kind of mentoring me and grooming me throughout that process. My dad always taught my brother and I at an early age, hey, if you're out here, if you're working out, like you're working out and training for football, you don't have to work on the back end of the day on the farm.
Yeah.
So I was like, hey, shit, if I get out of that, I might double down on this. I might double down on this football thing, and so that's kind of how I started. My dad understood. He was really great because my dad understood what it takes to be in football. Like if you really want to come in and be successful and produce every day in, day out, you can't be working on both, burn the candle at both ends. Right. So he was very understanding, especially in the summers when I got head football. Hey, he's not going to bust me in the back end. Now, shoot, if I wasn't though, and if he was working, I'm out there working. And I haven't really talked a whole lot about that, but it was a lot of work. It was. But at the same time, looking back, man, I'm grateful. Yeah. I'm grateful for that work.
Yeah. What was your favorite part about the work? Because you have, when you grew up in a farm, you had to find something that's specific that you really enjoy doing to really not think about all the bad stuff that you don't like to do.
And as funny as this might sound, like to me, I've and this might be bad or good, but I've always been money driven. So my mom and dad,
it's not a bad thing.
They would pay me, and that always that clicked for me.
Yeah.
But it also clicked for me as I've gotten older. I know what an hourly wage looks like. Mm-hmm. Hey, I got paid $5 an hour growing up. And then as I've gotten older, hey, you're telling me if I invest my money can grow and work for me?
Yeah.
And I got to go out there back and, bust it in the sun? Shoot, that sounds like a pretty good deal to me.
Yeah.
So that at an early age taught me the sweat equity of a dollar. Mm-hmm. But then also taught me, hey, the power of investing. And I've kind of learned that too as I've gone out of the league. But man, it was a good foundation.
I mean, I think it's a balance. I mean, I have a son we can already tell he's money driven. But it's that level of work ethic that you have to to pair that with. It can't be, money driven and then you're not willing to work.
Yep, that's right.
So that's why I say I don't think it's not a bad thing. It's just making sure you have all the right ingredients.
Yes.
I had John Robinson on here, last week, and we were talking about the different ingredients. He was, the former GM for the Titans, the different ingredients of building a team. And so, as humans, we all have different ingredients.
Yep.
And what makes us tick, we have to become aware of it.
Yes.
And when you're not aware of it is where I think we have, challenges. So that's, I think, when I say it's not a bad thing, I don't think it's a bad thing.
I agree too. And also too, faith was an important part of my upbringing too. So having that faith component, balancing out with, being, driven for money with faith and also a good foundation of family. I had a good balance in my life, like you're mentioning.
Yeah. So at what point did you decide that you're going to all right, I'm going to really give this football thing a go?
Man, that's a good question. In Wisconsin, there's a bar on every corner.
Wisconsin.
Yeah, in Wisconsin, there's a bar on every corner. All right, there's a church and a bar. That's kind of the joke there. I was living just 2 hours straight north.
2 hours north. Okay.
If you throw a dart, Wisconsin, I was right smack dab in the middle.
Okay.
And Wisconsin, it's cold as heck, like you mentioned earlier, right? So people, they combat that with a little extra alcohol.
Yeah.
So, and Wisconsin's big on drinking. So when I grew up, high school kids are, they're messing around. And I remember my last day of school, my sophomore year in high school, I ended up drinking a lot of alcohol and I ended up, getting super intoxicated. And I woke up the next day and just felt horrible. But also not just that, but just a decision I made. I'm like, that's not doesn't fit my values. It doesn't fit on where I want to go. And I made a commitment to myself that day. I said, I'm never going to touch this stuff again. And I'm really going to really focus on this football thing, from the preparation, from my body, from everything. And it was that mind shift, right? I think I'm sure had that point too. You had all the physical traits. It was that mind shift. And that's what it was for me. That moment, ethically speaking, I wanted to do it for the man upstairs, doing the right stuff. And then also I wanted to, I really wanted to see how far I could take this football thing.
Yeah.
So it was that moment that changed. And ended up going out to a couple college camps, got a couple offers, and you know how it goes. Get a couple more offers, and then committed to the University of Wisconsin, man. That's how that journey started.
Wow. I mean, I'm thinking about back in Mississippi where you got, same deal.
Yeah.
Wasn't doing it because it was cold. It was because there was nothing else to do.
Exactly. Yeah. Same Wisconsin, right? So, there ain't nothing to do up there.
Let's get out here on somebody's farm. Let's circle up the trucks.
Yeah.
Start a bonfire and let's see where it goes.
That's right.
And believe it or not, I didn't touch a sip of alcohol. I didn't know you see all this bourbon I have around.
Yeah.
But I didn't touch a sip of alcohol until after my third year in the NFL.
Wow.
Yeah. It was the first time that I had a sip of alcohol was that long. And so
that discipline is unbelievable.
Well, it was more so for me because I was always working. And then when I started playing ball, I treated ball like I was always working. So I was kind of like, you know what? Don't want to touch it.
Yeah.
A big cigar guy now. Never had a cigarette, no smoking. And my granddad smoked probably two packs of cigarettes a day.
A day.
Anyway, I digress. I was so as you start to think about now you put this work in, you getting a chance to get a scholarship to college.
Yeah.
Was Wisconsin the only place, or was there other places that you were like?
Yeah. But there, I grew up a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So faith is important to me. And my dad went to BYU. My grandfather coached there. Uncle played there as well. So I had pretty much every Big Ten offer, and I think I was the number 3 linebacker coming out of the country that year. So I ended up between BYU, Wisconsin, picked Wisconsin.
Okay.
And the big reason why was because they're coming off 3 Rose Bowls at that time. Yeah. And impact's important to me. So I feel like if I went to BYU, it would have just been another LDS kid through it. But going to Wisconsin, I would have been able to really kind of make an impact and show my faith, and then just have some great years. They're playing some great ball.
Right.
And, looking back, met my wife there, graduated college. We were the winningest class in Wisconsin history. Was then later beat by the year after us. But
it always happened like that, right?
Exactly right. And, if I had to go and do it all over again, man, I would pick Wisconsin every single time.
Yeah. Close to home. Family get to see you play. I mean, but that legacy of your grandfather, your father at BYU, that had to be hard.
Right. It is hard, but I mean, I went out there a few times for visits. I just didn't feel like it was calling me. And what I loved about Wisconsin was, we go back to that word, the work. I saw dudes in there who, when they went in that weight room, it was different. Like, they came in there to work. And they were putting out, dude, like offensive linemen, the front seven dudes, Wisconsin, right? Like defensive line, Wisconsin. You're talking about consistent players.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Even when you're playing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Consistent.
Year in and year out.
Consistent.
Yes.
Workhorse, right. And guys who are, we call like, smart, tough, dependable.
Yeah. Lunch pail guys.
Yeah, lunch pail guys. And like, dude, I really resonated with me. Guys who I really want, we banged it out in the weight room, and then we went and banged it out in practice, and we were able to produce success. Like, so, man, that's why I chose Wisconsin, man. Okay. Just good dudes. But then again, I saw that work.
Now, did you treat the work different? Coming from, the farm life to Wisconsin, did you, now you're playing ball at the big stage. Now you got more taking care of your body. Yeah. You got school, you have community impact. You have all these different aspects of it. How did you make that transition from the farm to actually thinking about all these other aspects of who you are as an athlete?
Dude, I think, and I want to know your opinion on this, I think the hardest jumps from high school to college. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Versus college to the NFL. People always think, man, that must be crazy going from college to the NFL. Dude, I think the hardest jumps from high school to college. Why? Is because, hey, I'm learning how to eat. I'm learning how to watch film. I'm learning how to train. Mm-hmm. I'm learning how to time manage.
Yeah.
Dude, you're doing all those things. Yeah. You're getting fed to the wolves.
By yourself. Here you go.
Right. And you got old cats in there who are pounding on you. You're a freshman. You're getting beat down. So, dude, I think the transition is hard. And that's why I redshirted my first year, just like you did. You mentioned you redshirted.
Yeah.
You were coming out as a high prospect, but dude, you get humbled really quick.
0 to 0 real quick.
But dude, I think that's so great though, because you need to be able to humble yourself.
That was my question for you, is what did it teach you?
Dude, it taught me, man, you got to be humble. But then also it really showed me discipline.
Yeah.
Because I think,
hold on, time out.
Yeah. Sorry.
You're coming from a place where it's nothing but discipline. And then I mean, this is fascinating to me. Now you shifted over from, growing up on a farm to now being in college, and you learn a different discipline. Yeah. What was that?
Again, probably a little money driven, but actually I wasn't even thinking about the NFL. I was just thinking, hey, I don't want to F this up. Like, they're giving me a scholarship. Are you kidding me? Like, I get this per diem is like probably $100 a month. I'm like, I thought that was a big deal, bro.
Could you imagine?
Yeah, right. Right. I think this is a discipline, man. Whatever I was going to do in my life, I want to do it at a high level. And I was looking at, hey, who are the best guys on this team, right? It was, at that time, it was guys like Travis Frederick, guys like Chris Borland. He played for a short time. It was some of those senior leaders that I saw who were disciplined. And I was like, okay, I see what that looks like. I'm going to try to implement some of those characteristics. So when I got to Wisconsin, I probably made it, every dumb freshman, I was, figuring out, being on time to class. I just didn't want to F up. For me, it was just really just honing in, man, and just putting 10 toes down and working.
Yeah.
Because again, man, the work comes first.
Right.
And we know this if we play ball, the work comes first.
Right.
And just that same mentality, man. If on the farm, work comes first. That's what we got to do, and then we can have fun.
When you're making different transitions, because we're gonna talk about it here in a little bit, that next transition. Yeah. So every stage of life, there's a transition, and how do you handle, how do you prepare for those different transitions? And so, like you said, when you go to college, you go from, it's tough. It's one of the hardest jumps to make.
Yes.
And now you're in it. At what point did you start thinking about the NFL?
Probably not till the end of my sophomore year, where I kind of started having some success. And guys like Melvin Gordon, James White, those guys are going to the league, and I was, competing at a decently neck and neck pace with those guys, and I was like, I might have a chance at this NFL thing. That's kind of when I started noticing. And after my junior year, I submitted my papers to the NFL to get an evaluation, and they advised me to come back my senior year. And we also had a really good team coming back my senior year. So I was like, you know what? I want to run this thing back. And I was like the number 1 outside linebacker in the country coming back.
Yeah.
So I was like, I really want to go first round. And, you know, that season, how that played out, it was like the 3rd game in, I broke my foot. And then I was, you know, young and stubborn. It was just a little fracture. So I did was I had him put a screw in there, and then 21 days after surgery, I played in a game. So that thing never healed right. And then that really kind of carried me into and then that kind of affected my draft grade because I wasn't healed right. And then I ended up kind of falling down at the first pick in the 4th round by the Packers, my hometown team. We can get into that, but
yeah, we're gonna get into that.
We're gonna get all that, but you know that, you know, looking back, man, I'm grateful that I went back because I was able to my wife and I got more serious, and we ended up getting married. But you're right, man. The transitions, they're hard. They're hard, man.
It's really, really tough. And so now you're sitting there at, you know, hoping that you're going to be a 1st round draft pick. You break your foot. Are you going into the draft thinking that you still have a shot, or to be in the first 2 rounds? Or are you thinking like, I'm just wherever I fall is where I fall?
Nah, that's a good question. I kind of thought I was going to be a 3rd round guy.
Yeah. So
I ended up, having a draft party day 2. So I had a big draft party, and, you know, everybody sees from a hat on, hey, the family going crazy. I'm telling you what the cameras don't show is that they don't show the guys who didn't get that call. And that's a very humbling thing when your families, you know, went all out for the cook. You know, dad went crazy on the grill, all family, friends, coaches come over. You know, people brought in, you know, jerseys and everything. And dude, to go the whole 2nd round, whole 3rd round, not getting a call. That's, bro, that really, that humbles you. I remember that night, dude, I went upstairs, cried in the shower because I thought like, dang, bro, like what? You know, everybody knows the story. Oh man, I know I'm better than that guy. You play the comparison game.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure you've heard that many times.
Yeah.
But dude, man, like adversity, you have adversity in life and football, bro. You're going to punch in the mouth a lot of times. Dude, it's just that dude that gets up every single time.
That's it.
And so, dude, just dusting myself off, man. Like, hey, let's get to work. Then nobody was home. It was just me, my dad. It was my brother, my sister, my wife, which is just a tight group.
Yeah.
And I had never talked to the Packers at all during the draft process.
Jeez, how it goes.
And all of a sudden, first the Packers are on the clock. And usually at that time, you're like, oh, they already picked. Dude, all of a sudden I get a Green Bay area code call. And it was the GM for the Packers. It was a really special moment for me because my name is Vince Biegel. I'm named after Vince Lombardi.
Yeah.
I came from a football family.
In your home state.
In my home state. I grew up there, played college ball, and I got drafted there. And, you know, looking back, I had everybody I needed there that day when I got that call.
Yeah.
So, you know, that was a special day for my family and one that I won't forget.
When I was doing some research and I was looking at that, I'm thinking like, man, how cool was it to be drafted, to play in Wisconsin, to get drafted, you know, by your home? I think about growing up in Mississippi. I stayed in Mississippi, wanted to play in Ole Miss.
Yeah.
If we had a football team, I wanted to stay there. And so the fact that you guys do have a football team in Wisconsin and you got a chance to go there and play at Wisconsin, then go and get drafted by Green Bay. I mean, was it a blessing in disguise? Was it the right thing for you? You know, which I know it's hard to say because you wanted to be in the 1st round, but where you got drafted, was it the fuel and motivation that you needed, and also the impact that you?
Yeah, dude, that's a great question. It was pretty cool. I got drafted, and I was overwhelmed just by the support of everybody in the community who supported me, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like every Wisconsin kid's dream too, to give people some perspective. Wisconsin's not a very big place, bro. And you're talking about a kid, you know, grew up there, college ball there, and now I get drafted there. To me, I was great. Green Bay ended up drafting me, and then they released me after 1 year. And that was, again, one of the hardest points of my career. They got a new general manager, new head coach, and everything, right? So they released me after 1 year. And I can't tell you how freeing that was when they released me. And here's why, is because my why I play the game of football changed. Each one of us have a why.
Absolutely.
Hey, I'm playing for mom.
Yep.
I'm going to get her out.
Yep. Getting her out.
Right? Mm-hmm. Hey, that drove you to something that you wouldn't have been able just to do, right? Yep. Dude, my why has always been for the man upstairs. And when I got drafted by Green Bay, my why changed. I was now doing it for, hey, I want to make the community proud. The fans, the buying the jerseys, the why changed. The mission changed.
Wow.
And I felt that too, like, cause football was fun, man. Like football in college we balled out, it was fun. And when I was in Green Bay, it was really, really a business. Like, and also I felt that pressure of that community aspect, right? Because everybody in my community is proud. And then I felt shameful, a little bit embarrassed when I got released. And then I got released and I got picked up by the Saints the next day. Now, you're talking about a kid who's never really been out of Wisconsin. I got picked up by the New Orleans Saints.
Down in New Orleans.
And I don't know if the viewers have been down in New Orleans much, but man, it's a great town, but like, I wouldn't live there.
Love New Orleans, man.
It's a great place to visit. You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry for all my New Orleans people listening right now. And dude, like, but I'll tell you this, bro, I've never been happier. I didn't even get to pick a number either. They gave me 59, one of the ugliest numbers you can. And bro, I love that.
Geekly.
Yeah, just an ugly number 59. And bro, I was so happy. Just a special teamer. Nobody knew who I was. And I just worked again, got back to the basics and I worked.
You don't realize how much pressure that could be there when you stay close to home. And then you also don't realize how much pressure you put on yourself when you forget your why.
Yes.
And getting that why back, put you back in the driver's seat.
That's right.
Yeah. And then you go on and you have a good career. You've had to balance those ups and downs, and it was without you even knowing, building you this resilient piece in you as well with the different ups and downs, the transitions and things like that. And so
how did you handle your transition when you went from Seattle to Chicago to Tennessee? How did you handle those transitions?
Yeah, it was difficult for me leaving Seattle. I've been there for 6 years.
Yeah.
Seen Mike Holmgren as a head coach, Jim Moore Jr. as a coach, then landed with Pete Carroll. And about the middle of that season, I saw that, actually before the season started with Pete Carroll, I saw that Pete was trying to get the team really young.
Yeah.
And trying to get it young. And at the time I didn't understand his method, but over time I really was able to take a step back, and especially being in the work that I'm in now in psychology and technology and things like that. It gave me a different perspective of Pete, and he was a mastermind of how, to really understand people, the things that I do with technology, he has that thing that's innate in him. And so I started to kind of see that and see him in that space and realize that it was, man, I don't want to leave Seattle.
Yeah.
And then, that transition was extremely hard because I've just finished building a home there. We just got the keys, and then all of a sudden there was a lockout. And so we're sitting there thinking, we'll be back in Seattle. And then, my wife was pregnant with our second child.
Yep.
And all of a sudden it was like, boom, we're off. And there was no time because it was the lockout, and it was 2010. So we had this lockout happening. And so I'm sitting there waiting trying to figure out, where do I live? Now, I don't have time to go searching and doing all this. Now my wife has to fly out and try to figure out, where do we live? Because now I'm in the building every day, all day.
Yeah.
And so that was challenging. And then when I got there, they brought me in to be the starting center. Olin Cruz had just left and went to New Orleans.
Yep.
And then I was leaving Seattle and I went to Chicago, and then get there and the O-line coach tell you, hey, we have our starting five. And I'm like, what do you mean I don't get to compete? I mean, you guys brought me here to be. And so that was another lesson there that I don't want to take up your time, but I can get into that I had to humble me to sit, because I had this mindset that I wasn't going to play anywhere for less than X amount of dollars. And that was my that was God humbling me where I was,
Yeah.
In that and learned a lot in that situation. And so, transitions they're not easy.
Yeah.
They're not easy. And
also too, I appreciate you bringing up the human aspect to everything, because I think people see the going across ESPN and hey, he's got traded here. It's, oh man, nice. We got that. But there's a huge psychology piece to it too.
Yeah.
Of you being uprooted, not just yourself, your family,
mm-hmm.
all those psychology aspects that affect a player on the field too.
Right.
That goes into it that I think a lot of people don't, talk about. And I appreciate that. That's a really good point you brought up.
It was a huge, mindset shift to get to a place where you can not even be thinking about these things when you're playing. So this is actually a good spot for a good transition to our 2-minute segment that we like to do.
I like that.
We do a little 2-minute going into halftime. So like easy, quick tossers,
sweet,
quick answers for you. So you ready for this?
Let's do it. Let's go, brother.
All right. Favorite game at Wisconsin?
Wisconsin versus Nebraska for the Freedom Trophy, the first ever.
Man, that was like right there.
Yeah.
Right,
and you didn't cue me for any of these either. So this is like
right off the dome.
I
love it. Funniest teammate in the NFL.
Funniest teammate in the NFL. Sam Egavon. He's played for the Jets last year, was with him from 19, 20, 21 with the Dolphins. Hilarious dude.
All right.
The best.
Okay. Best pregame playlist song.
Oh man, that's a good one, man. Don't laugh at me for this, but
just like a star.
I'm actually a big Rihanna fan, so we'll pour it up.
Okay.
I'm a big Rihanna fan.
Give me a quick lyric.
Pour it up. Watch out, throw out. Something like that. That's the only thing I heard from me. I'm not a good lyric guy.
All right. One thing you would tell your rookie self.
Ooh, one thing I'll tell my rookie self. Man, that's a lot. That's a hard one, dude.
Looking back.
Sorry, man.
It's hindsight, baby.
That's a really hard one.
Yeah.
I would say protect your chickens. I would say, protect your chickens, man. Make sure you make that. It's not what you make, it's what you keep.
All right, Marshawn.
Yeah, for real. No, that Marshawn Lynch, when he said that, I was like, yes.
Oh man, one of my favorite guys to ever be around, ever play with. Absolutely favorite.
I've heard he's
awesome. One of my favorite guys. All right, favorite stadium to play in. It could be college or pro.
Favorite stadium to play in. Man, I'm gonna have to go with Camp Randall. The jump around before the fourth quarter. And I know I'm a little biased, but dude, Camp Randall is special.
What a great story, by the way.
Yeah. But you know what though? I might retract that. The Superdome in New Orleans, bro, when you get that place rocking, that's a special place. Like,
so you never played in Seattle then? Now I'm biased now. I'm about to step in.
Well, at 12 man, I've heard crazy stuff about 12 man.
Yeah.
I've never played in Seattle.
Okay, so I give you a pass then. All right, so we're gonna get Superdome.
Superdome, yeah,
All
Superdome.
Right, perfect.
Superdome.
All right, that's great, man. So we're gonna jump back in here real quick here. As you start to become setting your tone for who you're going to be as a veteran, as a leader. What kind of piggyback on the last question I asked you, one of the questions I asked you in that soft tosser there, what kind of advice were you giving young players as they was coming through, being that you experienced the transition from college to pro to, getting let go and having that stress, family, all these different aspects of moving around different teams. What kind of advice were at tail end of your career you was giving young guys?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I was giving them, hey, to just kind of shut up and watch. I think
be seen, not heard.
Exactly.
That's what they used to tell me.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's so real because,
but they would do an emphasis on be seen, not heard, rookie.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's true because when you're a seasoned vet, the last thing you want to be hearing is some young rook talk. Like, bro, you don't know this. Like, this is, you came up.
Yeah.
And also too, like in the NFL, bro, you talking about seasoned dudes who've been humbled and who've battled and like roster bubble starters, like they've ridden that wave.
Right.
So bro, don't come at me and start talking to me about how this business is done. And then I would say also too is watch the most successful guys. What are they doing? Emulate those characteristics.
Yeah.
When I first got to Green Bay, my locker was right next to Clay Matthews, a guy who like Clay, I emulated my game after.
Big fan.
Yeah. Like Clay and I still consider him a very good friend of this day. We just had dinner last week together.
Yeah. Big fan of Clay.
And Clay was able to teach me how to be a pro. That's kind of how I started to learn how to be a pro, on how he takes care of his body. I went out there after my first year, started training with him. So I would say, hey, emulate those guys.
When you look at this generation of athlete who's coming in with a lot more from a financial situation, again, you're a guy who is looking up to a guy like Clay. I'm trying to get there, and so you're humble enough to ask, how do you help young guys now who's coming in with more still have that same like mindset? Is there any kind of advice you have for that for young athletes?
Dude, my mind shift has changed a lot, because I used to think I would die for the game of football, and now, bro, the NFL stands for not for long.
Yeah.
So my whole mind shift on the game of football has changed. Like, I work with a lot of former athletes in their transition, and the NFL, bro, is such a short period of your life.
Right.
And I'm also a believer, like, dude, the best is yet to come. Like, the Lord is just crafting you for the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And dude, yes, the NFL is really important. It's really cool, but dude, that's just the one chapter of your life.
Right.
And, I think it's just really important for men to get in the NFL, work as hard as you can, protect, it's not what you make, it's what you earn.
Right.
And, leverage that shield.
Yeah.
Because that's real. That's why, that's why we've been able to step into some of the doors we have.
Mm-hmm.
Leverage that thing. So, what I'm telling guys now is, man, is, it's not what you make, it's what you keep. And hey, what are you doing right now to, protect and keep your legacy? Like, either build businesses or start, real estate investing off the field. Like, that's really, like, I feel very passionate about that now. So my mind shift is a little different.
If you had tools that was going to help you become more aware of who you are, would that have made a difference for you in some areas?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Like, hindsight, looking back, not end of your career to the start of your career. I think two words to me stand out, and that is discipline and also a growth mind. Like, so discipline from the standpoint of, hey, discipline, like, I'm not going to go out late that night because I have to wake up early next morning. That kind of discipline, right?
Right.
And also, hey, being consistent, disciplined in my training. Like, hey, it's that time of the year where I start training again, getting back in the gym so that I come in shape for OTAs, that discipline.
Yeah.
Then I'm talking about growth. Like, I think it's really easy to become complacent in the NFL, because I think people have a sophomore slump because you come in and it's like, I'm learning, I'm hungry. It's like, second year, I got this now. Like, I know what to expect. Dude, you got to continue to be hungry.
A lot of those slumps come when you're still you're doing the same thing. And I'm not talking about, changing your strength program or changing the way you watch film. Like, those things are going to come. I truly now, again, when we're looking back, hindsight, I truly think the growth continue to happen when you turn inward, when you start to figure out what makes me tick.
Yeah.
Because this part is laid out for you. When you walk into the training room, they're giving you what your treatment plan is. They're giving you your workout. They're giving you, so that part of it is you go on autopilot when you're in that space. And so when you are able to, when you have time to click out of that auto and you take the wheel, it should be that growth then continue to happen when you're able to look at it. And that's one thing that I wish I would have done more early in my career, or had some tools that help me figure out, who am I? How do I tick?
Right. And I think understanding yourself helps you understand your weaknesses too.
Yeah.
And that kind of reminds me of when I was, after going into my fourth year in the NFL, I tore my Achilles the first time.
Left or right?
Tore my left one first, and then I tore my right one.
Oh.
So I tore my left one, first.
I got a zipper too on my left.
You doing? Yeah. So that was the first time, and I would like to know your opinion. That was the first time that I didn't play football for a football season. And that was the first time where I was watching games on TV or in the box. That was the first time that I saw the guys run out of town. I wasn't there. That was the first time guys were training. I wasn't. I was in the background doing my PT. And I think that time, you have a lot of free time too. Mm-hmm. And it's what are you doing with that free time? And I actually took the time the first time in my life ever talking to a psychiatrist. I never have in my life. I came from a farming family. So like, that's like, so like, dude, you're weak, dude. You're so soft.
Been there.
What are you talking about? You're doing that. Bro, what's wrong with you?
Been there.
Right?
Yeah.
Not just from the NFL, but I'm sure you're like our upbringing.
Yeah.
But dude, it's unbelievable to get perspective. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And again, you're unlocking growth like you're mentioning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you have a moment like that in your career where that happened?
Dude, I talked about it a while ago. Well, yeah, I was starting to get stingers. I had just come off a back injury. I had 3 shoulder surgeries, or 2 shoulder surgeries and thumb surgery, and then 2 herniated discs in my lower back. And then I started getting stingers in my shoulder. And so like I was mentally fried. And I remember my trainer came over to me one day. We just finished playing the Raiders, and he's like, "Hey, I want you to talk to a sports psychologist." And I was like, "Absolutely not."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Chris, I see it all over your face." And I was just like, and I just broke down. All right, okay, let's do it, and changed my whole perspective. And this is why, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing now. I love it because it's the stigma that was around it.
Yes,
man, just. There was so much growth that came out of it for me that I've dove into this world. So I enjoy it.
Me too, dude. Yeah. I like talking about that because, it's kind of, you're right. It is kind of a stigma in the NFL. Probably
it's going away.
It is.
It's moving pretty quickly here.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see that.
And I think even just the average person though, too, like just general population, there's a stigma too with it. Like, mm-hmm. Oh, what's wrong with you? Mm-hmm. But I mean, you're talking about unbelievable. That is just perspective.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is a lot of, again, growth that comes there.
It's a perspective and it's not the crutch. And, I think we kind of get going too far, too quickly in some areas. And so like you have to have the perspective is I'm going to get perspective so that I can better myself versus, this is going to be my reason why, my excuses.
Yeah.
My excuses, and so that's how I look at it. And I've learned so much over the years through it. And so, so thanks for asking me that.
No, I appreciate sharing that.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to start, we're starting to wind down here and want to talk about, your transition out of the league and transition to the things you're doing now.
Yeah.
How difficult was that transition? Were you ready for it? Or was it the old injury kick in the pants, say, all right, you're done?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody walks away from the NFL completely satisfied with their career. I mean, at least very few do.
Yeah.
Even the greats, I'm sure, wanted, that extra Super Bowl, whatever it was. And I kind of fell in the same category. I tore my Achilles in 2020 with the Dolphins, came back, played in 21.
COVID.
Yeah. And we actually wasn't that bad of a year to miss. And then 2022 was starting for the Ravens in preseason. I was going to be a starter, and then I tore my opposite Achilles.
They say the percentages go way up.
Yeah.
There's a tear one side, and that's my, I don't go out and play basketball anymore because I'm scared I may do that.
They say you're 100% more likely, like you have like 1% chance normally to 2% to tear the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
So happened. Man, dude, like I put everything I had into coming back and being the best shape. I was playing my best football with the Ravens my last year. And, I don't think anybody's ever ready to step away from the game. There's always, unfinished business.
Yeah.
Like this game of football, the NFL stands for me is not for long.
Yeah.
I'm looking back at my career, man, like I'm so thankful for that whole entire journey, man. All the ups and the downs because it built me resiliency. It built you all these characteristics. Like, and dude, it makes you a tough ass dude.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm freaking tough. Like I'm mentally, get
through anything.
Right. And I think the hardest part, you're mentally tough through the NFL, but then the biggest is about to come.
Yeah.
In the transition.
Yeah.
That is the hardest transition.
Is it scary?
Bro, it was so scary because I'm very passionate about this topic because like I like that transition and I like to help players because you have to remember A person has spent, let's call it 30 years of their life, if they're lucky, to one thing. And that's playing the game of football. Yeah. My discipline, my eating habits, like everything in your life is tailored to that one thing. And now you don't really have, hey, Sack and Tom Brady. Like that's not, you can't really translate that to like,
right.
Really.
Right.
For me, how that transition looked for me was I was nervous, man. Like, hey, one of my big core values of who I am is like a provider.
Right.
In my DNA is a provider.
As a man, yeah,
and all of a sudden you're telling me I'm not a provider anymore.
Yeah.
And then not even, I mean, yes, financially, but like just that the work
yes.
of providing.
Yeah.
Bro, I remember I rehabbed for 1 year. Like I spent all of 2022 rehabbing my Achilles, and then I spent all of 2023 getting phone calls, flying out to teams. I was good enough to get calls, but not good enough to get signed.
Yeah. It's another crushing blow.
Right. But I'll say this. In that whole year, I spent every single week I was on, again, using that shield. I spent every single week, probably 2 or 3 calls a week. I was talking to CEOs. I was talking to business owners, real estate people, franchisees, mobile home parks, gas station guys. Dude, I talked to everybody using the NFL shield.
Yes.
And like there was 2 characteristics. If you're trying to build wealth, there's 2 characteristics that stood out. If you want to build wealth, you own businesses and or real estate. I'm like, boom, that's what I want to do. And it was those conversations that have now took to me where I'm at today, which is, doing, real estate here in Nashville. But that's what that journey looked like. It was tough, man. It was a lot of uncomfortable moments in it, but it was also, companies like PAC, Pro Athlete Community, that helped me in that transition as well.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned PACs because it's one that I'm, fairly new to, just understanding, just kind of paying attention to what you guys have been doing there. Because PAC wasn't around when, I'm old now. It wasn't around.
It should have been.
Yeah. And I've also missed that window of, we, as NFL guys, you get these education benefits that you can go back and do schooling and things like that. And so here's another organization has created another way for guys to get support and get, different certificates through academic institutions. And so tell me more about how did you get involved with that and what, and where did the passion for this come from? Because I see that you just lit up like a Christmas tree when you start talking about this.
Yeah. Caleb Thornhill was the player development guy in Miami.
Okay.
So that's basically, he helps guys, hey, move in. He helps guys. He's the player, right? Yeah. Off the field stuff.
Yes.
Well, dude, a lot of these players were struggling, man. And Caleb was like, hey, I want to serve these guys. So in the off season, we used to have these Dolphins business combines.
Right.
Where he would bring in real estate people, entrepreneurs, and we had this awesome 3-day event, and it's for Dolphins players only.
Right.
Well, dude, guys from around the league were like, dude, what's going on here? Like, I want to be a part of this as well. So
because it used to be, you used to have the rookie symposium.
Yes.
And you used to do all of those things there.
Yes.
Then they did away with the rookie symposium. And so now your team is supposed to put on some type of, symposium for their players. And normally it's, how to, balance your checkbook and,
treat women with respect.
Yeah, respect. Yeah.
Let's check this box for these guys so we can get,
Yeah. And a lot of teams are now starting to get into that place where they want to be able to give you more. And so you're back at sorry, I interrupt you.
No.
In Miami, you start to get that.
So like we would have these, that was the first time I ever really thought about, dude, investing, like financial literacy. I grew up on a farm, bro. I didn't have any financial literacy. I mean, I was always saving my money, but like.
It's a difference.
Right. It's a difference.
Yeah.
So Caleb having these ended up quit his job in Miami the same time I left Miami. So he started PAC, Pro Athlete Community, co-founded that with a guy named Chip Pausek, who, dude, Chip is a serial entrepreneur, started Hooked on Phonics.
I'm having him on. He's coming on.
He's coming on too, dude. Like, I mean, dude, he's the best.
Yeah.
Took a company to $1 billion in revenue. Publicly traded company for 16 years. Dude, Chip is a stud.
Wow.
Unbelievable person. Those two started PAC back in 2022. I tore my Achilles, went to PAC, I was a part of the first ever cohort or first class there. And dude, I was just, whatever it is, like financial literacy, like investing, I'm just all in. Ended up loving it. Wasn't getting picked up. Chip and Caleb were like, bro, do you want to be our first NFL player hire? I was the fifth person at the company.
Wow.
We got 30 employees now. So like, hey Vince, like, do you want to come in and basically share your story? Help NFL players. Like, you would really connect well with them. I'm like, dude, I'm all in. I kind of had that opportunity from PAC and was thinking about moving to Nashville, and I still didn't get picked up yet. So a quick story is I called the only guy who would pick me up. His name is Robbie Leonard. He's the defensive line coach for the Oakland Raiders right now. Las Vegas Raiders, excuse me. Only guy who would pick me up. I said, hey, Robbie, I got this unbelievable opportunity. It's either you guys pick me up now or like, I think it's time for me to go. And he said, Vince, I love your brother. I think it's time for you to take the opportunity. And dude, I'm thankful for that.
Yeah.
I was able to come off the phone. I said, you know what? Hey, let's turn this page.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's kind of really started diving into PAC, started diving into real estate stuff. And man, like, I say this with 100% like realness. Like, I've never been more happy in my life than right now. I love the place in Nashville. I love helping guys, that service. Like, I feel like I'm just very humble and thankful right now to be able to help serve these athletes.
And how cool is it to make that transition? It's hard.
Yeah.
But you have those foundation pieces.
Yes.
You have those foundation pieces of work ethic. You have those highs and lows, the resilient piece, you know, so you have all these foundational pieces along with a skill set that a lot of people are looking for. And then you get to stay close to the game and impact other guys to help them realize that their skill sets are transferable.
That's right. That's right, dude. And it's so awesome because, you know, the variation of what players are coming into these is different. Like some guys are fresh out. Hey, I got the world. I can take the world on.
Right.
Some guys have been out for a few years and they might be a little down.
Right.
Dude, it is so powerful to be able to see guys over the course of the combine, these events, kind of go from like here to like, dude, hey, I can do this.
Confidence. Just
right.
Yeah.
Like, and it's that old saying, man, like, don't give them a fish, teach them how to fish. And PAC is truly helping guys, teaching them how to fish and connecting them. Like, I've seen guys get job at Dell headquarters, like Dell computers. I've seen guys get jobs to great jobs to, investing in real estate. It's been amazing.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited. I'm excited to check it out this weekend.
Yeah, this weekend.
In town in Nashville this weekend. So I'm excited to check it out. Now I have a familiar face when I walk in.
Yes.
So I really appreciate you sitting down with me today. Now, my last question for you as we wrap this thing up is, when you look back again, I'm always putting you in perspective of hindsight. When you look back over your journey.
Yeah.
And I'm including your upbringing in your journey.
Yeah.
What are those intangibles who has made Vince who he is today?
I think it really comes down to one word, and that's grit.
Grit.
Big grit guy. Like I was never the sexiest guy in the field. I was never the fastest. But dude, I was disciplined. I'm going to be the first one in, last one out, took care of my body. I've had some really bad injuries, tore both my Achilles. I ended up having 7 surgeries in the NFL. I didn't care though. I just kept working.
Yeah.
It's that grit, dude. Like getting punched in the mouth and say, F it, dude, let's keep fighting.
Yeah.
Like, and I fought all the way to the end, bro. Like I fought all the way to the end and I stand on that. I'm proud of that. But dude, it's freaking grit, man. Like I want to be surrounded with people who are freaking gritty. Like, hey, like gritty suckers. Like I want to, work. Yes, it's time to have fun, but like, hey, the work comes first. Yeah. Let's put that work in.
There it is. Work still coming first. So you get your plaque. Put it up. I'm gonna stick it on the back of your truck. Vince, this has been awesome, man. You got me excited. I just love hearing your story. Thank you for sharing. Thank you people be able to grab pieces from this that they can use in their life. This podcast is all about, showing those intangibles so people can start really thinking about what are my intangibles, because it's, we go through life not really thinking about these things.
Yeah.
And I was telling you a story early on, was my first time started to really think about my intangibles was with Archie Manning when he, made that comment to me of like, the NFL, these guys don't know what your intangibles are. I know you because I've been around you. I watched you. And it was one of the first time I started thinking about what are my intangibles. And so, and I was getting ready to get drafted into the NFL. And it still wasn't years later till I developed like that mindset of like, oh man, these are my intangibles.
And dude, you and I want to say this, I'm beyond thankful to be on this podcast. I think it's awesome, the platform you created, being able to have me on. I want to say I'm extremely thankful. One thing you just said, it kind of maybe spurred my mind was we didn't talk about vision. Like, I think whether you're when you're in sports or in business or just what's your vision? Because your vision is going to become your reality.
Yeah. And it's okay that vision is not automatically there.
Nor should it either.
Right.
A vision, bro.
You gotta learn how to work for it.
Yeah. And dude, your life, that's a masterpiece of work.
Yeah.
Bro, you got a long game here. Like this is a true marathon.
Definitely a marathon. Definitely a marathon. Vince, man, I really enjoyed this, man.
Bro, I appreciate you being
awesome.
Awesome, man.
This is great.
Thank you. Thank you.